Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, Empowering Hispanic and Latino Entrepreneurs, Celebrating Achievements and Future Opportunities. We're excited to have you all here as part of AEO's Equity and Opportunity for All series. Today, we'll be diving into important discussions around the impact and future of Latino entrepreneurship. To kick things off, it's my pleasure to introduce Natalie Madeira Cofield, President and CEO of the Association for Enterprise Opportunity. Under her leadership, AEO has been a driving force in creating opportunities for underserved entrepreneurs across the country. Welcome, Natalie.
Thank you so much, Chelsea, and thank you all for joining us, including our incredible speakers. Good afternoon. My name is Natalie Madeira Cofield, and I am honored to be the President and CEO for the Association for Enterprise Opportunity. I'm delighted to welcome you to today's webinar, Empowering Hispanic and Latino Entrepreneurs, Celebrating Achievements and Future Opportunities. This event is part of our ongoing Equity and Opportunity for All series, serving as a vital platform to discuss economic equity and opportunity within the small business community. Since our founding in 1991, AEO has been the leading national trade association for small business development in the United States of America. Our mission is simple, yet powerful, to create economic opportunity for underserved entrepreneurs, particularly those in BIPOC and low to moderate income communities. We support over 2,700 member organizations, ranging from business support organizations to lending institutions, by providing advocacy, research, and capacity building resources. One of our flagship initiatives, the Business Health Assessment Tool, really addresses the critical financial incentives and technical assistance and operational gaps that small businesses face every single day of operation. Through these and other programs, we've successfully engaged over 2,000 entrepreneurs and partnered with more than 20 business service organizations to provide comprehensive support to small business owners across the nation. Our partnerships with government agencies, corporate entities, and philanthropic organizations are crucial to advancing the needs of underserved entrepreneurs. In addition to our day-to-day efforts and our Equity and Opportunity for All series, AEO hosts impactful events like our AEO Talks, regional councils, and various conferences and convenings, as well as our Data to Dialogue research conversation series, which we also launched recently. Now, let's talk about today's webinar. Today's webinar offers a platform to discuss economic equity and opportunity in the Latino business community. It's essential to recognize and support the remarkable contributions of Latino entrepreneurs. They play a critical and crucial role in driving economic growth, with Latino-owned businesses generating over $766 billion annually in the United States of America. These entrepreneurs foster diversity and inclusivity in workplace across various sectors, specifically and significantly enhancing our national economy and contributing to community development in main streets across the country. Further, by emphasizing their contribution, AEO is proud to release our new fact sheet on Latino-owned businesses, which you'll hear a little bit about later from my colleague, Dr. Lori Smith. This publication highlights the contributions of Latino-owned entrepreneurs, the unique challenges these entrepreneurs face, and the support systems necessary for their growth and success. If you haven't already, I encourage you to download the fact sheet and explore the valuable insights that it provides. At AEO, we are committed to advocating for Latino entrepreneurs, ensuring they have the resources and support that they need to thrive. We invite all stakeholders, policymakers, and members of the public to join us in these efforts. By supporting Latino entrepreneurs, we can contribute and create a more inclusive and equitable business environment for everyone and aid the United States of America in adding to our bottom line. So now, let's get this webinar started. With that, it's my pleasure to introduce AEO's Senior Research Associate, Dr. Lori Smith, who will share with us a research presentation that brings to life much of the fact sheet on Latino business entrepreneurs and paints the landscape of what's to come. With that, Lori, thank you so much.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you so much, Natalie. I'm Lori Smith, and I'm honored to be here today. So there's a lot of ground that we're going to cover in our panel discussion. So I'm just going to kick us off by presenting some key data points and some context to help set the stage for that discussion. And so my hope is that after our discussion today, we will all walk away with advice about how to create a more inclusive environment for Latino entrepreneurs. So first of all, again, you can find some key data points in our recently released fact sheet. And just in the future, if you're interested in finding out more, please take a look at our research website. We have a lot there. We have research reports, we have interactive dashboards, and these dashboards give you access to business data at various levels of geography and for different demographic groups. And so we're also really keen on hearing, what you'd like to see in terms of data and insights. So given all of the talent in the room and all of the important work that you're doing, I'd love to hear your thoughts on new research opportunities and talk about ways that we can produce data and insights to inform your work. So please do reach out to us at research@aeoworks.org if you're interested in discussing any of our work. Now, the main takeaways of my presentation are, first of all, to talk about the really substantial and growing importance of entrepreneurship in the Latino community and why this matters. And then I'll show that there are still significant gaps, and we'll discuss what is needed to address those gaps to empower Latino communities nationwide. But first, I'll just start with some context on the US Latino community. So I'm going to start with language. So you'll notice, for example, that in the title of this webinar, we used Hispanic and Latino, but we've also seen lots of changes in the last few years when it comes to language. So, for example, the increasing use of Latinx or Latina labels. But language is constantly evolving, and it's changing and it's nuanced. And so the words that we used yesterday may not be the words we use tomorrow or even today. And so, for example, you may have seen research from Pew showing that awareness of Latinx or Latina labels is increasing, but identity isn't necessarily growing alongside that awareness. So still a relatively low number of Latinos identify with the Latinx label. But again, language is constantly evolving. And here's an incredible book by sociologist Cristina Mora on the construction of Hispanicity starting in the 1970s. And so one thing that comes out is that in the 1990s, only 25% of US Latinos identified with the Hispanic term. And then by 2012, that number was close to 90%. And Cristina also studied Latinx identity among US-born Californians and found that 25% identify with the term, and especially among those born in Gen Z. And so, of course, Latinos may adopt a variety of pan-ethnic labels that can be used in different contexts. But the point is, the more we can talk to people in our communities and better understand what language is preferred, then the better we can adopt our services. Now, some of us might be familiar with the Office of Management and Budget's March 2024 announcement of the adoption of a single question format to ask about race and ethnicity. So while today I'll be reporting on survey data where Latinos could identify as their race separately from Latino origin, and the future respondents will be able to identify their race as Latino alone. And so many Latino advocacy groups have championed this decision as a step forward, but others, including many Afro-Latino groups, have expressed concern that this could lead to inaccuracies in counts for Latino and Black communities and contribute to an obscuring of distinct racial identities within a shared Latino identity. So the concern is that when we see the question presented in this way on the right, the Hispanic or Latino option will be seen or perceived as mutually exclusive. So even though there's the option to select more, there may be an increasing tendency to still perceive it as mutually exclusive. And so here you'll see that a significant part of the US population and the Latino population, so 2% of the overall population and 12% of the Latino population identifies as Afro-Latino. But still only 1 in 7 identify as Latino among this group. And so here we can see why there may be a concern about how this new approach to categorization will influence Afro-Latino identity. And so this is just to say that when you think about how you ask these questions in your own organizations, it's really important to have your own local community in mind. So now let's take a big picture look at the demographic landscape. So many of you are likely familiar with these statistics already. But often whenever someone talks about why we should pay attention to the Latino community, we hear that this is one of the fastest growing groups in the country. So Latino population growth has been driving national population growth now for a few decades, and now accounts for more than half of total population growth. So here, 52% and more since 2019. So when we think about the nation overall, of course, the white population is still much larger, here at 197 million in 2019, but Latinos still make up more than half of total population growth, and today the population is at 60 million, or sorry, today the population is at 65 million. This is from older data. And so today about 65 million or 19% of the population is Latino, but that's up from about 13% in the early 2000s. And so one of the interesting things about this growth is that a lot of the growth of the Latino population is coming from US-born Latinos rather than from immigration. So most Latinos are US-born, and starting about 2/3 are US-born. And starting in 2009, more than a decade ago, Latinos have no longer represented the most substantial immigration flow. And migration was at net zero for Mexicans for many years as well, meaning that more were leaving the US than entering the US. And so again, when we look at the Latino community in terms of different national origin or descent, it's important to remember that it's not a monolith. So while Mexicans still account for the largest share of US Latinos, the fastest growth is taking place among Latinos of Venezuelan, Paraguayan, Honduran, and Guatemalan descent. And then even within national identities, there may still be subnational ethnic identities, and some identities may transverse national boundaries. So for organizations, the point is just to understand and appreciate the diversity of this community to develop systems that will enable and empower your local Latino community. So now we've seen that Latinos are a large and growing part of the US population. And as you would expect, Latinos are also a large and growing part of the US business community. So beyond population trends, their contributions to business are very substantial. So here, this chart shows growth in key firmographics for Latino businesses versus all businesses from 2012 to 2020. And so first, we see that the number of Latino-owned businesses overall grew by 46% over this period, relative to only 19% for businesses overall. And this growth is even more striking when we look at employer businesses. So employer businesses grew by 31% relative to only 6% growth overall, which highlights really significant growth. And now to get a sense of the overall scale and significance of Latino business ownership and the broader landscape of US business ownership, this chart shows the share of total firms owned by race and ethnicity and gender by year of establishment. And so what you'll see here is a large and increasing share of businesses and more recent businesses that are owned by Latinos. And that's shown in the green shaded colors. And you'll notice especially an important role of Latina women. And here's another way to look at Latino business ownership. So a lot of you may have heard about a Latino entrepreneurship gap, where we see fewer Latino businesses than we would expect, given their share of the population. And so we've discussed how Latinos make up about 19% of the population, as shown in the gray bars here. And here in the bottom bar, we see that Latino employer businesses make up only 6.5% of all employer businesses. So despite this recent growth we just saw, there's still a significant gap. In the middle bar, when we look at all businesses in the census data, we see a smaller gap, but still a gap where Latino-owned businesses represent 15% of all businesses. But what's really interesting is that when we look at the nationally representative survey data on business owners, we see that 20% of business owners are Latino. So that's more than their share of the population. And this translates to an estimated 7.4 million Latino entrepreneurs. And this difference is because census data are less comprehensive. For example, businesses with undocumented income are overlooked. And so looking at census data, I would say that Latino entrepreneurs are more accurately under-recognized rather than underrepresented. And this tendency to sort of have a fuller picture of the business landscape is in survey data versus census data holds for all demographic groups, but especially it reveals how Latino business ownership is effectively under-recognized when we look at census data. And this means that we need to continue to make better data collection a priority to better serve these entrepreneurs. But the impact and potential of Latino entrepreneurship also goes beyond just economic output. It's also about supporting business owners who will hire and reinvest in their local communities, building an economy that truly works for everyone. And so we talked about creating jobs, but are Latino businesses also creating good jobs in their communities? Well, there's also evidence so this is from last year from a nationally representative survey of entrepreneurship, and we see evidence that Latino business ownership is strategic for creating good jobs. So here we see that across most categories of benefits, Latino entrepreneurs are more likely to offer benefits than non-Latinos. And I know this will resonate with many of you on the ground as service providers who see this commitment to community and your work every day. So what are the challenges? Well, one problem is a persistent credit gap. So last year, Latino entrepreneurs were reported being denied credit at almost twice the rate of white-owned firms. So while Latino entrepreneurs are playing an important and outsized role in their business community, their impact could be even greater with increased access to small business credit. And access to credit is especially important for the Latino community, given that historical exclusion, structural discrimination, and even land seizures have contributed to an overall wealth gap that limits the personal and family wealth available to start businesses today. And so research has shown that starting capital is a really important driver of revenue growth and scalability. And now another challenge is a persistent gap in resources and support. So last year, we also saw that Latino entrepreneurs reported greater challenges accessing resources and support than other business owners. And this holds across a whole array of different types of support. So how do we turn these challenges into opportunities? So in response to these needs, community lenders and local business support organizations have really stepped up, providing tailored financing solutions and technical assistance to Latino-owned businesses. And another area where we've seen increased momentum is in creating procurement opportunities for Latino entrepreneurs. And beyond these general strategies, we're seeing some really incredible initiatives that are designed with the heart of their local communities in mind. And so I'm really thrilled to have an incredible lineup of speakers with us today who have done so much to support Latino entrepreneurs through targeted policies, through community initiatives, access to capital, and access to opportunities. And I really can't wait to hear your perspectives. And so now it is my pleasure to introduce our panel moderator, Carolina Martinez, who will guide us through this important discussion. Carolina is the CEO of CAMEO Network, a statewide microbusiness network made up of over 400 lenders, training programs, chambers of commerce, job creators, agencies, and individuals dedicated to furthering microbusiness development in the state. CAMEO advocates for its members and builds their capacity to support the almost 200,000 very small businesses they serve. Carolina has 20 years of experience working in economic development and business consulting, and her vision has been defined by the varieties of experiences that she's had with nonprofits and universities in South and North America. Carolina, it's a privilege to have you here, and the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Lori, and good afternoon to everyone joining us today for this important conversation. I appreciate the introduction. And with all of like you mentioned, I've been working a lot with the small businesses, and as an entrepreneur myself, I really appreciate the opportunity to have these conversations where we openly discuss the challenges we face on a daily basis, but we also learn from the solutions that exist currently and the great work that so many people is doing nationwide. So as a Latina, I'm honored to be moderating this conversation where we'll be hearing from inspiring leaders that are working to support Latino entrepreneurs throughout the country. So I want to invite the panelists now to come to turn on their cameras and join me. I would like to ask them just to get started with a briefly introduction of themselves, and then we'll dive right into the conversation. It's such a privilege to be here with them. So let's get started with you, Ramiro.
Well, thank you, Carolina. What an honor to be here with you and Natalie and the whole team. I highly respect the partners on the panel with me. So I'm always a big believer that we continue to learn so we can get better. So thank you again, Carolina, for moderating our panel. I'll be as brief as I can be. I've been the CEO of the United States Hispanic Chamber of Commerce for 6 years. And prior to that, I ran the San Antonio Hispanic Chamber of Commerce for a little over 10 years. It was founded in 1929. So it is the oldest Hispanic chamber in America. Of course, America was first settled by Latinos 128 years before the British even arrived at Plymouth Rock. So we are everybody came here from somewhere else, as you all know. And so we believe that the 7.2 million Latino-owned businesses deserve to have a seat at the table. It's a table that we've built over the years, and we're very proud of the economic power of these businesses. And we over-index in small business startups. Obviously, we're in major industries that make a difference, and we're based in Washington, D.C., and we oversee close to 300 Latino chambers like San Antonio's, the 7+ million Latino-owned businesses that are out there working hard every day, and of course, hundreds of corporations that believe that the U.S. economy will go through the Latino community. So honored to be here with each of you, and we're the largest Hispanic business association in the country, and we are just getting warmed up.
I love that. Thank you, Ramiro. Mark?
Hi, Carolina. Thank you, Natalie, and great to be with these amazing panelists. Happy Hispanic Heritage Month, familia. I'm Mark L. Madrid, and I'm a proud son of resilient business owners, small business owners who filled our home with grit, determination, and ganas. And so I'm really a product of that. Their unwavering spirit has shaped everything that I am today. And my career journey has taken me from Wall Street to serving this country as a head official for the United States Small Business Administration. But at my core, my business has always been small business the last 15 years. Now I'm one of you. I'm a small business owner myself as CEO of Breakthrough Mavens, LLC, and navigating the same challenges and triumphs that you have on the ground. So I'm energized and honored and happy to be here. And I want to take a moment to acknowledge every small business owner watching right now. You are the backbone of our neighborhoods and communities and our economy. And I look forward to the real talk, not only about the challenges, but the opportunities. And thank you for listening to us and taking precious time to be here. Thank you.
Well, you certainly get us smiling today.
Absolutely.
Thank you. That's great. Rubén? Oh, you're on mute, Rubén.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for allowing me to be here. It's an honor and a pleasure, AEO, your panelists, and Carolina. I really appreciate it. I'm the founder of LMNTS, that stands for the Leadership, Management, Neural Networks, Technology, and Social Impact. These are the core elements, pun intended, that we believe that our Latino community needs in order to empower themselves into the next generation, into the new economy. We've been doing this work for a long time. Me, Mark, and Natalie go back at least 10 years. I started Austin's first social impact incubator. We first started Austin's first social impact track at South by Southwest. And Mark and I created a high school program for high school students in Title I schools back in 2015. Since then, we moved into the college space 8 years ago. And I've been a professor at the University of Texas at Austin, most recently as the founding director, executive director, and professor of the Office of Inclusive Innovation and Entrepreneurship at the University of Texas at Austin, founding 2 undergraduate programs that work in executive leadership, entrepreneurship, and product management, and also teaching at the Lyndon Baines Johnson School of Public Affairs. From all that work, what really spurs and inspires me is the journey of my father, who came from Mexico with at the age of 18, with $20 in his pocket, not knowing the English language and an 8th grade education. From that journey, from that grit, that entrepreneurial spirit, he built his life and was able to provide for me, my rest of my siblings, my family. The spirit of my entrepreneurship essence is to see everyone have the opportunity, not just for the American dream, but what does this Latino dream look like, and help making sure that we have a seat at the table, like we said before. And I'm so honored and proud to be at the helm, spurring new young minds in the entrepreneurship journey. We are currently leading the Frontera Leadership Institute in Brownsville, Texas, with the Brownsville Community Improvement Corporation, helping create what we did at the University of Texas and took the first year program and squeeze it into 3 months. And these students are having a phenomenal experience. Happy to share more from that. But thank you so much for having me here.
Thank you so much, Rubén. And Rudy?
Thanks, Caro, and thank you, AEO, for having me. My name is Rudy Espinoza. I help lead Inclusive Action for the city. We are a nonprofit economic justice organization based in Los Angeles. I share similar stories to my colleagues here about my family and my parents crossing the border and raising a family with very little formal education and resources. And that's the sort of the theme of my career. I think if folks are listening and they're curious about why I do this work, I do this work because I grew up with very little. And I saw that my family struggled and my mom struggled as a single mom trying to take care of her kids with a third grade education. And I realized as I got older that this was not a rare story. And I'm interested in how do we move resources and make sure that they're equitably distributed. And that's, I found myself here at Inclusive Action in this organization that allows me to advance that. Inclusive Action is a CDFI. We are a lender that provides small business loans to entrepreneurs that can't get capital from banks, but we think money isn't enough. We also have an advocacy division, and Caro, you and I are celebrating this week because one of our bills, Senate Bill 1103, was signed by the governor in California that's supporting small businesses. We've also done a lot of work in California to support street vendors. We passed 2 state policies that have legalized street vending in California to support our entrepreneurs in our neighborhoods. So advocacy is critical in addition to capital. And the third vertical at Inclusive Action is around innovation, developing new tools for economic justice. And we're doing some cool work around real estate acquisition to support our neighborhoods and making sure that our communities have control over where they work and where they live. And so I'm really happy to be here and I'm happy to participate.
Oh, thank you all. I love how we always come back to that personal story of why we arrived here. And I just want to highlight before we started that part, because that's what makes us, I think, us as a Latino community. We love to share that. We share that history, that experience that brought us where we are. And all of us have arrived here from different paths, but some of them are very common experiences. And I think we're here helping our community and giving back. And I didn't grow up here. I actually arrived as an adult. And when I first arrived, I figured from outside, like, oh, how could I help small businesses in the United States? And then I came and I figured, oh, our community still needs a lot of help. And that's how I ended up in the Latino Business Resource Center back in Pennsylvania, right? Like, we still need to give back and to provide those resources. And you guys here at the panel, all the panelists are just so inspiring. So let's dive right in. We heard from Lori, and some of you mentioned this. We have Latinos owning over 7 million businesses in this country, contributing almost $800 billion to the U.S. economy annually. And actually, a recent research published by the Latino Business Action Network mentioned that the Latino businesses will be reaching $3.3 trillion in economic opportunity by 2030 if they have fair access to capital and opportunities. And I think that's so important. And the reason I start with these numbers is because they're staggering. It's really exciting to see that the power that as a community we have, and that we are at a point where we can really look into what the needs of these communities are. So we know that Latinos are resilient, but we do face those unequal access to these resources. So as much as I want to dive right into the opportunities, I want to take a minute to talk about the challenges that we face as small business owners. So I want to ask all panelists to really give us their opinion, like, what do you see as the greatest challenge that is faced by the community, and how can we address those challenges? So let's go backwards. Let's start with you, Rudy.
Wow, you want me to go? Okay, right on, we're going there. Well, friends, I think that we're a CDFI, we're a lender, we work with small businesses. So we are trying to cut checks and get capital to businesses in our neighborhoods. And what I try to remind folks is that Latino entrepreneurs have various identities. When we see a small business owner, we think, oh, wow, they must be doing really well. They're probably ballers. They have everything taken care of. They're good. Let's ask them for a donation for our event. And I think that we are not realizing that entrepreneurs have various identities. They're heads of household, they're parents. Often I'm seeing that there's a lot of caregiving happening for their immigrant parents that need support. They might not have documentation status. And so there's all these identities that remind us that we must work hard to build solidarity and coalitions with other organizations and activists that are advancing policies that impact all those needs and all those identities. And so I think that that's the way that I look at the work that we do, is that we are lenders, but we're not just hanging out with CDFIs and banks. We have to also hang out with tenant rights groups. We also have to hang out and support activists that are looking for immigration reform in this country. These are all things that impact the entrepreneur, especially the Latino entrepreneur in Los Angeles and in this country.
Thank you. And as an entrepreneur, Rubén, what are your thoughts on that?
You know, I think I'm a perfect example of this journey, right? I think a lot of this conversation is twofold. It's moving from the informal, like, hacemos a chafas, as you used to say, to like being like, this is what a business plan is. Here's how you need to get your books in order. Here's how you need to go present this to a CDFI or a bank. But at the same time, there is this need from institutions to roll up their sleeves and do what I'm doing, go to the ground, build the relationships, which takes time and it gives you gray hair, right? But it's so worth it because real lives are transformed. And the reason is, well, I can only reach so many people there. I need to do it en masse, but they don't understand the order of effect, like the domino effect. And so by building really strong community partners, you don't have to do it by yourself. And so the challenge is institutions trying to say, well, we need to reach the ground, but they're just like, well, let's find proxies. No, you get down there too. And you built the relationships because then collectively we can support each other. That's on the institutional side. What I'm seeing on the challenge from the Latino side, and mind you, my answer is going to be a little bit biased because I work with a lot of young people. Young people are super smart, as we know. Young Latinos are super smart. The issue is they haven't always been told that they belong at the table. And my work has been, yes, you belong at the table, and you're going to shape what's on the menu. And so the whole goal is for them to psychologically see themselves step by step, moving along from taking an idea of like, I don't even know how to spell entrepreneurship, to launching a company, to getting it funded, to then scaling, to then getting hired at big tech companies and making over six-figure salaries over and over again. I have a track record over the past 10 years doing this. Now the goal is, how do we expand it beyond just myself to a collective community so we can all collectively do this?
Okay, that mindset is so important, right? Like thinking through, you can be a business owner, you can be an entrepreneur, not just a side hustle.
And having that community of other entrepreneurs to support you when you need help.
That's true. Thank you, Mark.
This is great because we have different perspectives, and thank you, Rubén, for sharing that 10 years ago, those meetings that you and myself and Natalie had. It just took me back and got me a little emotional, frankly. And to see us 10 years later still in the good battlefield. And Ramiro, we're about to go to another USHCC National Convention in Kansas City and to see the family reunion. Rudy, I look forward to getting to know you because that CDFI space is so important. So I just wanted to share how this powerful network, how we're supporting each other. And it reminds me that I need to give Rubén a call and check with him fully because we have a history, and Natalie as well. So I've experienced a really unique landscape from supporting the almost 1,000 entrepreneurs, scaled entrepreneurs that came through the Latino Business Action Network and the Stanford Latino Entrepreneurship Initiative. So those are entrepreneurs, generally over $1 million of annual gross revenue. And I've also supported in my recent role, all small businesses with the ongoing heart for Latino and Latina entrepreneurs, but the smallest of the small, those who don't feel seen or heard right? So what that has taught me is that we need to target our information, the knowledge, based upon who we're talking to and what their needs are. We have to meet them where they are. So one boot camp session is not going to work for all. Not all 30 people are going to be absorbing that information in the appropriate way. We need to do some pre-reads in terms of what is this base looking like? If we're talking about certification and procurement, which means going after contracts with the federal government, for instance, which is different than corporate procurement with corporate America, which could be different than the municipal government, which is different than the county. I don't want to overwhelm, but before we have that session or the educational session, we need to make sure that we do the work so that those who feel over-marketed and feel like they're overwhelmed and they don't know the difference, that we put them in a certain curriculum, for instance. Those who are certified, maybe with the federal government, who are still looking for their first contract, maybe we put those in a separate room. So, because I felt firsthand, I've seen so many instances, and I'm thinking of one right now, literally a Latina entrepreneur that I'm working with in Arizona. And she was like, Mark, I'm overwhelmed because I thought this certification was this certification. I found out it wasn't. And so I'm confused. It's too much paperwork, and it's just me, myself, and I have 2 employees, and they're consumed with me because I have them doing everything. So that was the challenge, but it was also the opportunity. So I said, you know what? Why don't we dedicate, like that one thing principle? Why don't we dedicate 1 hour for twice a week for 3 weeks, and we'll just focus on trusted, reliable, updated content. I said, will you join me on that journey? And we have to promise each other that there's no distractions unless it's an emergency, unless it's family. So we went on that journey. And recently we completed that journey. And what she said is the following: I just didn't know what I didn't know. I was just operating from what I've heard and what I experienced based on not really being on the front row student and understanding why I needed to go to this content in the first place. So now she understands the strong foundation that she has. So she understands which sessions to go to sign up to, which opportunities are tailored for her business. And so she feels more like she has a navigation and a roadmap and a plan. And there's nothing like feeling like you have a plan. And then if you combine that with your why, like why are you running this business? What kind of leader do you want to be? And what kind of culture do you want to have? So I think it's all out there for us, but we have to make sure that we're serving our community and meeting them where they are. So we've got the tech startups that are ruling the world of technology, but we've still got that arepas owner who's still looking for her logo, who's still trying to find, a supplier, who's trying to find food, maybe potentially at a lower price. And we did that in Flint, Michigan. We found a co-op for her in downtown Flint, where the rubber meets the road. And now she has her loud pink shirt on, and all her logos are pink, and she's marketing that sauce, that special sauce made by her mother-in-law. I said, y'all get along? And she said, yeah, she's right there. And so that just led to happiness and joy and this smiley face. And then people started coming and trying the sauce. So we got the sauce. Now we just got to make sure that we're tailoring the knowledge in the right way, targeting and making sure we follow up so that people feel grounded, no matter if they're that arepas owner or that tech startup.
Thank you, Mark. Ramiro.
Well, Carolina, I agree completely with Rubén and Rudy and Mark that, being a small business owner, starting a business, running a business, it's the biggest challenge that anybody can have. Being an entrepreneur is a very lonely occupation. Only 1 out of every 300 Americans run a business. 1 out of every 200 Latinos, though, run a business, which says, the study was done by McKinsey and Company, Latinos over-index in entrepreneurship. It's in our blood. I grew up with grandparents on both sides that had a small grocery store or were camaroneros, shrimpers on my mother's side, or they were ranchers or farmers. We didn't even think of ourselves as entrepreneurs or business owners. We were creating our own income, our own work. And I grew up in La Frontera, 8 miles from the Mexican border in the valley, like Rubén. I mean, we were majority Latinos, and we had no limitations because there was nobody to tell us we weren't good. We quite frankly were, our Anglo friends, they had nicknames like Flaco and they had nicknames that were Spanish names. So we had an advantage. So we grew up with no glass ceiling, no limitations. We didn't know what we didn't know, I think is what Rubén was saying. I mean, we just knew we needed to move. And so I was blessed with, like many of my fellow panel members, parents who opened the door and said, you know, that door is yours. Make whatever you want of it. And that's what running a business is. And you have to make payroll and you have to pay others before you pay yourself. But the three things that we do at the United States Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, we call it the 3 C's. Number one is we help people get capital. That is the greatest need. LBAN, Mark came up with a study. 40% of Latino businesses get turned down from a large bank and a medium-sized bank. No reason at all. We have better credit scores. We've been in business longer. We have more money in the bank, and they don't care. Why? Because our businesses may not be in a sexy part of a community. It may be in an urban core that is an older from an infrastructure standpoint. So judgments are made about Latino and Latina-owned businesses, and that's very unfair, but it's a reality. So we need to keep pushing the access to capital. All kinds is important. Number two is capacity building. It's the story that Mark just shared of, you know, helping someone how to get certified and what are the steps they need to be in position to be in position. And it's education. It's working with local Latino chambers, who each of them is an economic oasis to just help you connect with opportunities. From Hawaii to Puerto Rico, we have Latino chambers. And then the last C of the three is connections, contracts. The U.S. government, only 1.7% of its multi-trillion-dollar budget goes to Latino-owned businesses, and it's the largest buying service in the world. And guess who fuels it? Our taxpayer dollars. It's a very bad economic formula when we're 21% of the population, and yet we're getting less than 2%. And then Fortune 500 companies, same story there. They need to do business with people who are buying their products, who are their workforce, and who want to be their vendors. And 43% of Fortune 500 companies were started by an immigrant or a son or the daughter of an immigrant. And that's the irony of the story, is the American economy, the largest economy in the world, is built by immigrants, and it's run by immigrants. And we need to keep our voices loud and clear, because we're being ignored, we're being pushed down or put down. And that's why we exist, is to promote the 3 C's and to work with partners like these great colleagues on the panel and not give up. We are the future of this economy, and we're average age is 29, 30 for Latinos, when the average age of America is in the mid to late 40s. So what are they going to do? They have only one option. It's to support Latino business and to follow our lead. And that's the advantage that we have. And that's our superpower, because we're different and we know where we need to go. So those are my thoughts of what it is to be an entrepreneur and why it's so important for us to keep pushing and support our empresarios and empresarias, whether they're Latinx or Latina or Hispanic or Latino. We have too many damn labels.
We do.
I'm tired of labels. I don't care what you call me. Just, call me for business.
Yeah. And I love that. We actually do work with the 3 C's. Actually, we have 5 C's for ecosystem building, which add the climate, besides the ones you talk, capital, coaching and connections. We add climate related to regulation and legislation, and culture. How friendly people in the cities and the communities are to new businesses, how they support it, which is so important for us to really support our small businesses. So love that. And Ramiro, I wanted to stay with you a little bit. And we know from Latinos, we are such an incredibly diverse community within the Latino community. And I guess that goes to the designation. We all identify, have our own culture, our own community. So what do you feel we can do more to recognize this diversity and support the distinctive needs of individual communities?
Well, Lori had some really good data, Carolina, earlier, and I think that, just the only thing I would share, my dad had this saying, he had many sayings, right? As I'm sure y'all's parents did, but he had one saying, el que no habla, Dios no lo oye. And so humility and respect are great virtues in our culture, but they are no good in business. They not to stand out and to compete. The free enterprise system is about competition. It's about preparation. It's about showing up. It's about, having, spiky elbows and broad shoulders. And, it rewards the loudest and the fittest and the most prepared. And, that's something that as Latinos and Latinas, we can succeed at. And yet maintain our soul, our cultura, our culture, but keep that at home. That's with our family. That's with our community in how we exercise our support. But when it comes to business, it's dog eat dog. It's competition. And, I would just say that for the other thing that we need to learn is that we're not all the same. We can have solidarity, we can be united, and we should be. But, we come from 30 different countries as Latinos. And some of us got in this morning and last night at a port of entry or the border from Venezuela. And then some of us in Texas, like my family, they got here 300 years ago, but they consider themselves still Mexicanos because they never moved. We love to tell people we didn't cross the border crossed us. And so we still speak Spanish, we're still con mucho orgullo, but we still think like immigrants all these years later, and that's the beauty of our culture. 20% of us are Afro-Latino. Some of us are Asian Latino. We're Filipinos or Filipinas. We are LGBTQ, we're Jewish, we're Protestant, we're Catholic. We're Caucasian. If your family is blonde hair, blue eyed, and you came from Spain. So, those designations, Latino and Hispanic, it's an ethnic group. We're a culture. We're not a race. We're multiracial. And we love everybody. We marry out more than any other community in the US, so eventually everybody's going to be Latino, whether they like it or not. And so
over that.
And there's a saying too that Joaquin Blayas, I used it earlier, being Hispanic is a state of mind. If you want to be Latino or Latino, how many gringos have you met that are like more culturally astute with who we are than even some Latinos or Latinas that we know or may speak? And then we need to stop judging each other. Pues ese no habla el español tan bien. O ese lo habla muy bien, perfecta, ¿de dónde es? It doesn't matter. Let's stop being our harshest critic. Let's support each other, whether we speak English or Spanish or do it well or not, or what the color of our skin is. We're too worried about labels and differences and how we are unique. We are a culture and ethnic group that is the most powerful economic giant in North America. North America deserves a big thank you to us because we not only built the US, but we built Mexico. And Canada, while a great country, very diverse, but smaller than California and Texas in population. So this is our time. And I believe that we need to speak up and be heard and to realize that we need to find common ground with each other and know our power and insist on what we deserve to have. And that's the mantra that we carry in everything that we do. So that's my answer to your question. It may not be what maybe you were seeking.
No, actually, no, it is. And actually, I love that because it's the concept that we've been going around that we are stronger together, right? It's like we are to get to those numbers and that impact that we have in the community. We definitely need that. And Rubén, I wanted to kind of with the work of the businesses, and this conversation has been great, but I haven't gone through half of the questions, everybody. So let's go. We wanted to hear from you a little bit about the trends that you're seeing in the Latino business community. Are any specific industries that seem to offer more opportunity for both growth and success, or what are the ones that are shaping the future economic impact?
We're moving from traditional, so we're never going to get rid of like existing industries per se, they just morph. Technology is an additive, but it's not the center thing. But it is the fastest track for one to build wealth. So what I am seeing on the ground is young people are way more tech savvy than even I was at the time. So now with the advent of AI and tools like ChatGPT and Gemini, they are actually embracing it and using it in ways that are leaving us in the dust. And so I think that's a good thing. However, I think it's an important conversation we need to have about how does, if the Latino community is so large and we have such a big economic impact, this means that we have a lot of political and economic influence. What does that mean when it intersects the direction of our society with technology? See, climate change is a big threat, so is AI, but it's a big opportunity as well. Latinos will shape AI and how we embrace AI. And we need to be able to really step into that conversation. And we're not just doing that just yet as a whole, but I am seeing our community on the ground do that. Funny enough, I've never told my students and the young entrepreneurs I mentor to create social enterprises. But in their heart, by nature, they're like, and this is how we're going to impact the community. What I'm seeing on the ground is their shift from saying, hey, I'm not just going to work to die. I'm going to work to live. 1, 2, I'm going to make sure that the work that we do impacts the community. 3, I want to create a generational legacy so that we can have clean air, clean water, and a better future for our young people. And we're going to leverage technology in a responsible way so that we can actually make that happen. That's what I'm seeing on the ground.
Thank you, Rubén. And that's so interesting because we don't usually associate technology, right? Like the stereotype of Latino businesses is outside of that industry. And I think it's so important for us to embrace that we can also be part of that and that it will affect us and that we will actually determine the future of it. So I really, really appreciate those comments, Rubén. And I wanted to turn over to Rudy. And one of the challenges we heard at the beginning was about the challenges the small businesses face when they are accessing capital, right? And so I wanted just to hear from you a little bit about what solutions are available for them, for the people attending today. But I wanted to ask you 2 different questions, and I'm going to try to put it together in one here, Rudy, because it's not only the services that we are providing to the small businesses, but also all the advocacy and the work that is being done at the policy level to really have that systems change that we are looking for our businesses. So how would you feel like our solutions available for small businesses to access these resources? And what policy changes, either at the local, state, or federal levels, are needed to really better support the economic success of these small businesses?
I see we have 7 minutes left, and so we might have a question for Mark too, so I'm going to go quick. I think if somebody's looking for a loan, Ramiro gave us some really important statistics that if you go to a big bank, which you should always start with a big bank, in my opinion, 60% chance they're going to decline you. If they do, you should look for a community development financial institution. CAMEO happens to be an important organizer of CDFI, so is the Opportunity Finance Network. You go on their website and can look for a lender in your community. And hopefully the CDFI has some better underwriting that could help you get a loan for your business. Sometimes these CDFIs also have access to grants, depending on their funding situation that might be able to help you. So that's like the first short question. If you're a business owner, that's how you might be able to begin to try to get capital. Ramiro also mentioned something about procurement and looking at the fact that Latinos only get 2% of contracts. Is that right, Ramiro? Was that what you said? That's crazy.
That's correct.
That's like insane.
It's insane.
It's insane. We should be all pissed. We should be so angry about this. And I think that this is where elected officials have to step up, and we have to step into the advocacy realm. I have a really sort of a violent response to the picking yourself up by the bootstraps. This idea that, oh, well, if this person did it, then you can do it. and you just have to work hard. You have to go to the financial education workshop and then you're going to be good. I refuse that. That's a lie, because no one has done that. Everybody has received support. And in many cases, they've received support from our public sector and our government. And so I think one of the things that we need to do is think about how we can use all our expertise as entrepreneurs, as practitioners, to be also effective advocates, to make sure that our city, our county, our state, and our national budgets are investing in the right things. Because right now they're not. Right now, when they are thinking about, oh, let's support small businesses, they give us a very tiny amount of resources to subsidize loans and to support these education programs. And they give a lot of money to other things that are not helping us. And I'm not going to name those things, but I'm sure you can think of things that they're investing in that are not helping our community. So we have to put our advocacy hat on. And I'm not going to name specific ideas, but there's a lot of other things that we could do. We could be doing better with our money. Whether you're documented or even if you're undocumented, you're probably paying taxes. And that's money that should be going back to support our community. And we all, everybody here on this panel and everybody listening and everybody in AEO's network has a role to play as advocates. And so don't stop your, well, that's not my lane, Carolina, I don't really do that. You have a role to play. And you shouldn't just stick to your lane and just do your program and hope that that's going to solve it. We need to think bigger.
And Rudy, I just appreciate so much the work that you've been doing of really providing the capital solutions with the technical assistance, but also thinking through more the comprehensive solutions of it's not the product, it's really the systems that need to be changed. And we all have a part in that. So I really appreciate that. And I like the comment you made about procurement, because it kind of lead us right into Mark's question. I agree, it is really like insane that we only have 2% of our businesses taking advantage of the procurement opportunities. And I think as a small businesses, it goes back to Ruben's point of the mindset of, can we actually access those opportunities, right? So it is getting us to, you're not only an entrepreneur and small business owner, but you can actually be contracting with the federal government or with the state government, or even with corporations that are doing that. So how can, Mark, how can larger corporations and government agencies better support Latino-owned businesses through procurement policies and partnerships?
Well, I think I only have 3 minutes, so I'm going to flip it because yes, we have the challenges, but I want to talk about what we can do. And because I've seen it done. I've seen it done today with an 8A firm, Latino in Las Vegas, who got his first 8A contract. And he did a joint venture with another Latino entrepreneur in a different state. Isn't that beautiful? So it is 1.7%, but we have to make sure that we're getting the right knowledge and becoming prepared. While some of us get in the good battlefield to get more opportunities, but we got to get in the game. You know, I talked to another entrepreneur yesterday, and she said, Mark, I'm not confident. I'll just be honest. And so the other C is building confidence, that we join entrepreneurs in clusters and say, we're gonna guide you through this. So I've seen times and a lot of wins when people get in the game, they know what eligibility requirements are, they roadmap them, they gain support. It's the same with lending and access to capital. We achieved so much at the Small Business Administration, but I remember I was like a switch hitter because I could go into contracts, entrepreneurial development, or capital. With capital under the administration, we saw more small dollar lending because of Administrator Isabela Casillas Guzman, more small dollar lending in high interest rate environments, a record number of loans and to Latino-owned businesses. And one of the reasons for that is I said, let's not do a 20 slide PowerPoint. Let's hang right here on the eligibility of a microloan. And we're going to use repeat messaging as our friend and come back. Heck, I'm a banker. I was Wall Street and I didn't understand the difference between a microloan, a 7A loan, and a 504 loan. We've got to change our terminology. Do you want to purchase that land or potentially that game-changing asset? That's this product called the 504. But think about land in a building. 7A, think about working capital. But sometimes when the small business owners, because they weren't experts, some of them in accounting and finance, but you don't have to be. You brought this brilliant idea for a product or service, but you brought a bookkeeper along or your part-time bookkeeper. Maybe that graduates to your accounting person or CPA or maybe a finance director. So when I saw a roadmap and a plan, there was a reception by the entrepreneur, and the more control they felt on their own journey, the more success they found. So I want to make sure that we structure the 1.7%, that we've got to demand more and stand up. But at the same time, we've got to also inspire on those that are eligible to get in the game. And I've seen it from California all the way to Florida, to Salt Lake City, Fort Dodge, Iowa, Arkansas, Las Vegas. It's happening all over the country. And now we can honeycomb all this activity together to what Rubén said in terms of support networks and what Ramiro's doing in, every day, but we're about to be in that family reunion. Let's walk away with clusters, and let's not let geographic boundaries bind us and differences bind us. We've got to come together. We've got to lift each other up. This is our moment. You know, and I'll close with this. Between 2017 and 2022, US Latinos, the cohort, fastest growing economies in the world, #2, right behind China. And so we should be super proud, but let's continue the good fight and be in good trouble, as John Lewis said.
I love that, Mark. So, and I appreciate everybody in the audience too. If they could give us a couple of minutes, I just want one thing really quick. Imagine you got an Aladdin lamp, and it's going to give us 4 wishes, one for each of you, to really support the Latino businesses. What would that wish be? And this is completely off script, so I know they're thinking about the wish. So I don't know. Ramiro, do you want to go first?
Well, you know, I think if my wish is that there would be more business for Latino and Latino-owned businesses. The numbers don't lie, like DNA doesn't lie, and it's completely unacceptable for Fortune 500 companies and the U.S. government. Although they're trying, we need to try harder to get above the 2% because we're 20% plus. That would be my wish: is more business, more business.
That's a good one, Rubén.
Entrepreneurial education starting from the K-12 space and funding mentors. I know mentorship should be a gratuity, like a charity, but if we can fund and support mentorship programs in entrepreneurship and democratize the process, more people can get access to the education, and therefore more people will be willing to go ahead and start and launch their businesses.
Great. Mark.
My wish is that every American citizen realizes that when we nurture this growth segment, this powerhouse, is that we're nurturing all of us. We're nurturing this American economy. That's the bottom line. Appreciate who's driving this growth.
Thank you, Mark. Rudy?
I'd probably pick the most amazing social safety net ever seen across the world that includes a guaranteed basic income. So entrepreneurs don't have to worry about the basics, and they could worry about how to build strong businesses.
I love that. And I think the message I just want to close with this is there are so many nonprofit organizations working and community lenders throughout the country supporting entrepreneurs. Many of you are here, but for small businesses, it's really important to be aware of that. So thank you, Ramiro, Rubén, Mark, Rudy. Oh, I didn't realize the amount of hours I had here. For all the work that you do to really support our community and to share your expertise with us today. Lori, I'll turn it over to you.
What a great discussion. A big thank you to our incredible panelists for sharing their expertise and perspectives on the vital role Latino entrepreneurs play in our economy. Additionally, on behalf of AEO, I also extend a sincere thank you to all of you for attending and being part of this important conversation. As Rudy stated, we all have a role to play. Before we close, I'd like to invite you to join us for our upcoming Equity and Opportunity for All webinars. On November 7th, we'll be discussing defining underserved, where we'll dive into our definition of underserved and what it means for policy and programming. Then on November 21st, we'll be celebrating the contributions of Native entrepreneurs in honor of Native American Heritage Month. We've shared links in the chat for you to sign up for our newsletter and explore upcoming events. We hope to see you there. Thank you again for joining us today, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.